Hello everyone, welcome back. In this lesson, we will add the photo list component and side panel component into our web app. But before that, I would like to show you a CSS framework that we're going to use for our front end. So a lot of people are already familiar with Bootstrap. Besides Bootstrap, there are several other, very popular front end framework as well. So for example, we have Foundation, which is a very powerful UI front end, framework. And also we have Semantic UI, which is this one. And in this course, we'll be using Semantic UI, and you can browse around for different elements. So like it has buttons, and pretty much the way to use it is the same as in Bootstrap. You just install the corresponding JS and the CSS file, and then put the corresponding class name in the class annotation, class attribute, so it will automatically come into effect. So all the class here starts with UI for Semantic UI framework. So besides that, we have Foundation. I just want to quickly show you guys. This is the Foundation website. Very interesting. You can go take a look. And we have another one called Materialize. So basically, this is supporting of the material design from Google. So a lot of elements and gadgets are based on material design concept. You can choose whatever you like, but in this course, I just want to show you a different framework because you don't want to get stuck into Bootstrap, okay? And if you actually don't know how to download and install the Semantic UI files, it's okay. I will simply add this resource folder, which includes some of the Semantic CSS and Semantic JS file, and put it in the same level as app folder that's under the source folder. So I will put the source code in attachment, and you can just directly download and use it. Okay, so now let's come back to our web application. So if we just visit localhost 4200, so we have our photo list and side panel, right? In order to make sure the Semantic UI is loaded correctly, we need to modify the index file here to include some of the libraries. So here you can see I have added the jQuery and the semantic main.js, and also I have included semantic CSS and main.css. So main.css is just something that we want to modify and use, okay? So after we have included the library, and if we come back to our web page, you can see we have the corresponding grid system displayed. One is on the left, one is on the right side, okay? Now let's come back to our source code, and we're gonna open our app folder, and we're gonna create a new file. And within this new file, we gonna paste in some code and save it as photo-list.component.ts. Okay, so we're gonna save that. And what this does is, let me just quickly go through that. So again, we have the three major parts, right? We have the import parts, annotation, and the class. Okay, so the first part, we have import different components. The first one we have seen before, that is the component for this annotation from Angular core library. And for the other three, we have the photo service and the user and photo. So photo service is just a concept of service. So if you haven't heard about the service thing, you need to take some of the Angular basic course to understand that. And also I have the models here, which is user and photo. You need to understand that concept as well. It basically, they're serving as the model, files. So we haven't created those yet. We will be creating that pretty soon. And then after that, we have our selector, which is the photo dash list, so that we can reference to this component later in the HTML context. Again, we have an external photo dash list component.html file. And after that, we define in our class, photo list class, we define photos and selected photo variables. This one we have defined as an array, and this one we define as a photo type. Okay, so photo is just like a class. If you know about in the C++ or Java, that's a model that we'll be creating. Okay, and constructor. So a class needs a constructor to make use of the class. So that is to say, if you want to create an instance of this class, you have to have a constructor. A lot of times you don't see this constructor has been defined manually. That's because system automatically added if you don't define yourself. So here I want to define it because I want to do some initialization when the class is constructed. Specifically, I'm adding this photo service instance into play. Okay, so this photo service is gonna go fetch some photos. Okay, and here I'm just using a callback function that once you have some return the result, and I'm gonna mark it as data, and I'm actually gonna pass that information and fetch the data objects and put it into the photos variable, and I'm gonna log that for debugging purpose. If there's some error, I'm gonna put it into error and print error to the console as well. And now let's just create our models for user, photo, and potentially another one called comments. So first, let's right click on the app folder and create a new folder and call it models. So with this model file, we're going to create 3 models. The first one would be let's just name it as user.ts. So in this model file, we don't have the annotation. We just have basically import a photo model from the same folder, which we'll be writing pretty soon. But basically, this user will have some basic information like user ID, first name, last name, username, password, created date, and photo list. That is the photo this user has already uploaded. And then like the photo list, that is the photo list this user has already liked. Okay, so the second model will be we're gonna save it as photo.ts. So again, we are importing the user and comment from the same folder. We haven't defined a comment yet, which we'll be doing soon. And for the photo, we have the ID, photo name, title, description, user, the corresponding user that attached to the photo, okay, and the image name. So we will have a name for this photo, and liked by user list. So who has already liked the photo, and the likes, that's a number. So how many likes do we have for this photo? Okay, and we're gonna have a comment list that each comment will have its own content. Okay, and the date when this photo is actually created. And then I will create another model. I'm gonna call it comment.ts. So basically, this is pretty much similar to the others. It's just we are having the comment ID, the photo that is the comment is relating to, and the user who created the comment, and the content of the comment, and the photo ID, so the ID of the comment referring to. All right. So that's for our models, 3 models that we have added. Now we have add models. We need to create services as well. So let's just right click on the app folder and create a new folder called services. And within the services, we're gonna create a new file. And I'm gonna just paste in the code. And I'm gonna just call it photo.service.ts. So you are seeing some of the comment for this code. That is we're not using them yet. we'll be using them later. Okay, so you might want to pause the video and type in the content here. So again, we have the import part, and this injectable is specifically for Angular services. So I'm not going to go into details because that's going to take a long time to explain. I would suggest you to take a Angular course to get familiar with the basic concept. Okay. And then we have the constructor to build the HTTP Angular service that provided by Angular. This get photos method basically is going to go to the backend and fetch the corresponding photos, all right, and will be returned to the place where the service is called, all right. So after we have defined the service models and photo list component, there's one thing we need to do, that is we need to go to the app.module to import the corresponding content. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna import the photo list from components photo list dot component. Okay, and we're gonna definitely declare that so that it's available for usage. And for services, we need to import that as well. So we're gonna import the photo service from that services photo.service, and we're gonna define the providers for that as well, which is photo service. Okay, so let's just come back to our components folder. So we have defined the photo list component, but we haven't defined the photo list component.html yet. So let's create a new file, and I'm gonna just paste in the code and save. I'm gonna save it as photo list component.html. Okay, so we're basically having a loop here using the ng4 statement to display all the photos that we have fetched. Okay, so if you are interested, you can review the code. It's pretty straightforward. If you're not familiar with this basic syntax, you need to take the Angular 2 basic course so that you can understand. Okay, so I'm just fetching this image from the CLL and just display some of the titles and descriptions and number of likes for each picture. Okay, so that's for the photo list part, and we haven't added the side panel yet, so let's just quickly do that. So we're gonna paste in the code and call it side panel.component.ts. Okay, and we're gonna create a side panel.component.html, and we're gonna save it as side panel.component.html. So right now it has nothing to be displayed. It's just simply a 3 rows of this text, h1 text. Okay, now that we have our photo list and side panel component added, how do we link to that to our app? So remember previous lesson we have added the home.component, so we're gonna based on that build the photo list and side panel. And if we look at the diagram, the architecture diagram, we know that we have the home components, right? Within which we have the home component and photo list and side panel. And the side panel will be containing photo row. We'll be adding that in later lesson. So that's how we actually link them. So if we go to the home.component.html, we can just simply replace this with the corresponding name of the component from the selector name we have defined. And we're gonna add this as side panel. Okay, so we're gonna save and come back to see, the code has been refreshed. So sometimes if this is keep loading, that means there's some problem you want to inspect. Okay. So in the console, we have a template path error. Side panel is not a known element. That's because here in the app.module.ts we haven't imported the component yet. So we want to do that. Import side panel run component, and we need to define that in the declaration. Side panel. Okay, and we save, and we come back, and the system will refresh automatically. Okay, so now we have the side panel displayed, but we are missing the photo list. That's because we haven't started the backend yet, which we'll be doing in the next lesson. Okay, so we have a lot of content covered in this lesson. You want to go back and take a look at those and then make sure you understand how the each modules are linked to each other, and how we handle each module. Okay, because those things will be repeated in the next lessons. All right, see you guys the next one. Bye.